When you picture a bald eagle, you're probably thinking of this majestic, powerful symbol of freedom, right? But what if I told you the real story is full of shocking controversy, a brush with extinction, and one of the most incredible comeback stories in the history of conservation? Well, that's what we're diving into. So, from the moment it was chosen as the national emblem of the United States way back in 1782, the bald eagle has been, a core part of American identity. But here's the thing, not everyone was on board. In fact, one of its loudest critics was someone you would never expect.
Yep, you heard that right. Benjamin Franklin himself had some serious problems with the choice. He pointed out that the eagle often steals fish from other smaller birds, and he basically called it a lazy scavenger and a total coward. I mean, that's a pretty harsh review for the bird that's supposed to represent a whole nation.
And hey, before we go any further, let's just clear up one of the biggest misconceptions out there. Bald eagles? Well, they aren't actually bald. The name comes from a really old English word, bald, which just meant white. So its name literally just means white-headed eagle, which, when you think about it, makes a whole lot more sense. It's also really easy to mix them up with their cousin, the golden eagle. So what's the difference? Well, the bald eagle has a much bigger head and that really prominent bright yellow beak. But honestly, the real dead giveaway is the legs. Bald eagles have bare lower legs, kind of like they're wearing shorts, while golden eagles have feathers all the way down to their feet, like they're wearing pants. Okay, so Franklin might have questioned its character, but absolutely no one can question its design. This bird is a perfectly engineered apex predator, and when you look at the numbers, they're just staggering. First off, let's just talk about scale. Their wingspan can reach up to 2.3 meters, or 7.5 feet. Now, to put that in perspective, that's wider than most people are tall. This massive wingspan lets them just ride thermal air currents for hours, barely flapping a wing, as they scan the ground for their next meal. And they are heavy birds. The females are the true giants of the species, weighing up to 6.3 kilograms, or about 14 pounds. That makes them roughly 25% larger than the males, which gives them a huge advantage when it comes to defending the nest or taking down bigger prey. And they are unbelievably fast. Sure, they might just cruise along at a pretty relaxed pace, but when they lock onto a target, they can dive at speeds up to 160 kilometers an hour. That's nearly 100 miles per hour. It's just an incredible display of power and precision. So what are they diving for? Well, as you can see, fish is their absolute favorite. It makes up more than half their diet. That's why you'll almost always find them living near rivers, lakes, and coastlines. But they're also super opportunistic. They'll happily go after other birds, small mammals, and yeah, just like Franklin said, they're not above scavenging when they get the chance. Their hunting equipment is just next level. For starters, their grip is about 10 times stronger than a human's. Their toes have these little bumps on them called spicules, which are like built-in grippers for holding onto slippery fish. And get this, the largest eagle nest ever found weighed almost 2 metric tons. That is the weight of a small car. With all this incredible natural power, you'd think the bald eagle would be invincible. But in the middle of the 20th century, this iconic species was pushed to the absolute edge of extinction by a silent, invisible killer. The culprit was a pesticide you've probably heard of, DDT. The really insidious thing about it was that it didn't poison the adult eagles directly. Instead, it worked its way up the food chain, building up in their bodies. And it messed with their calcium levels, so they started laying eggs with shells that were just too thin to survive. The eggs would literally break under the weight of the parent trying to keep them warm. This timeline really shows you just how catastrophic the collapse was. From a healthy population in the hundreds of thousands, they just plummeted. By 1963, there were only 412 nesting pairs left in the entire lower 48 states. Think about that. The symbol of America had almost completely vanished. And then, a turning point. The nationwide ban of DDT in 1972. Banning DDT was the first, most critical step, but it was really just the beginning of the fight. Saving the bald eagle was going to take a huge, coordinated effort from scientists, lawmakers, and volunteers all across the country. So, the comeback was really built on 3 main pillars. First, the DDT ban, which stopped the poison at its source. Second, there were new legal protections under the Endangered Species Act that made it illegal to hunt the eagles or destroy their habitats. And third, you had armies of dedicated conservationists monitoring nests and reintroducing eagles back into their old territories. So did it work? Oh yeah, it worked. Just look at these numbers. From that terrifying low of 412 pairs in 1963, the population absolutely exploded. By 2006, there were nearly 10,000 nesting pairs. It is, without a doubt, one of the most successful recovery stories in the entire history of the Endangered Species Act.
And this quote from biologist Rolf, it really captures the passion that drove this whole thing. He was one of the key people who helped create a wildlife refuge for eagles in Oregon. It's just a powerful reminder that behind these big statistics are dedicated, passionate individuals who made it all happen. So after teetering on the very edge of extinction, the bald eagle came back. And in doing so, its meaning as a symbol has become so much deeper and more powerful. The eagle isn't just a symbol of a nation's ideals anymore. It's become this living, breathing symbol of resilience. Its story is proof, actual proof, that when we take decisive action, when we have the collective will, we can reverse environmental damage. We can bring a species back from the brink. And that leaves us with a pretty important question, doesn't it? The comeback of the bald eagle is a story of hope. It's a blueprint for what's possible. And so it forces us to ask, what other species are out there waiting for their own comeback story? And what are we willing to do to make it happen?